try to catch you doing something.
Nope.
God, dang. I thought for sure I would be able to catch you doing something.
You got to get up earlier than that, Jay.
Well, Justin Deal, how are you, sir?
Doing very well, thank you. How are you doing?
Good. We named this Strategic Family Planning with Recovery in Action. That's clever.
Yeah, I like the name of that. It's
a
nice title.
Alrighty. So really no point to this, but reality is pure education, having fun, trying to reach out. Send questions if you are by chance watching. Hello, Mom. Oh, phone. Redo. All right. I'll get that later. But so let's break it down. We're talking interventions, case management, family consulting, strategic family planning, which is our clever program that what we do. So, Kev, I'm off today, so no one's watching anyway. But Justin,
yeah,
Justin, let's start with basics and so forth. Let's kind of say, like, families may not be following when we kind of follow with these big words and kind of get real quick within our explanations. So today, let's kind of break it down and simplify, if in simplest terms, like, what do you kind of outline some things that are the what you preach the most, if saying working with a family during intervention or case management or just kind of family consulting. Let's start really, really simple and some of the very basic first kind of steps that you bring up to a family.
Right. Well, so I think that we've had a topic before about how in other weeks where we've talked about how it's as important that the family do a family program. And, I just was working last week with a family and they responded that, they had no idea, what that meant. And so, the way I described it was, we're going to be asking your loved one to go off to treatment to do some inward work and realizations. And it is oftentimes, substance use treatment is a crash course for AA or some other form of, long-term recovery. And a family program is a crash course, for Al-Anon. And then they interrupted me again and said, well, what is Al-Anon? I guess I am as guilty as anyone at taking for granted that just, Bob and Mary Jones out there know what is available to them. And as we have often discussed,
so what is Al-Anon?
Al-Anon is the sister program of AA. It is for anybody who has a loved one that is powerless over drugs and alcohol. And it uses the same 12 steps and the same philosophy of getting a sponsor to take you through those steps and having a home group, which gives you an opportunity to be of service, and a community.
So it's a support system for, loving an addict instead of, the addicts, alcoholics going to their AA meetings or NA meetings or whatever A meetings you're talking. Al-Anon follows a simple philosophy, much like the addict alcoholic, with building community and finding like-minded people going through the same issues. Eliminating the uniqueness, thinking that, this is a unique situation that we're going through. You and I both know it's not really unique ever. And once they walk into an Al-Anon meeting, the hope here is that uniqueness kind of, evaporates, because they'll be with like-minded loved ones who don't necessarily know how to love an addict, an alcoholic, an active addiction, or in recovery.
Right. And it also, it is helping them realize the difference between supporting and enabling. And it is an accountability for them with either their home group or their sponsor on whether or not they are having their own relapse of sorts. And how I like to put it is possibly steal a consequence or a challenge from the still using or even early in sobriety individual, because the loved one thinks that they are doing that and it is helping, but it's actually, taking away the opportunity for that newly sober individual or still using to hit a bottom and realize that they do possess the ability to, work through that on their own.
Well, once again, you have you did not get to the second round two. You have we laid out simple rules, and you have, I don't want to say you failed, because I don't like people failed, but so you just kind of brushed through a lot of vocabulary that people may not be aware of. You use home group, you use sponsor. You, Justin Deal, unfortunately are not going to be able to go to the second round. So we need to simplify this. A home group, obviously, it's kind of in the name. If you really analyze the name, which I do a lot, and so it makes me wrong more often than not. But home group is basically the group that you go to on a weekly basis, or often as possible. And the premise is simple: like, get to know people, get connected with people, let them know your family history, your stories. And when you walk into that room, my hope is that you and I both have a home group and so forth, and it's that feeling of walking into that group where people know you, kind of the Cheers aspect to it, if you want to go to the bar terms. But it's a home group, when Justin says, is the regular group you go to on a weekly basis. More often than not, they'll have several meetings through the course of the week, so it's not just one. But highly recommend you do more than one a week, but that's up to you. And a sponsor, you want to explain what a sponsor is, and maybe
Sure.
just maybe get to round two?
Yes, I'll try. And that's why we collaborate, Jay. You pick up where I drop off there.
Well, I'm just the judge. You're trying to kiss up to the judge right now, but go ahead, but collaborate. That's a big word.
A sponsor is someone that has some more time in the recovery, whether it is from the addict side or the loved one side, and it is someone that has been through the 12 steps, and hopefully, ideally, has a sponsor themselves. And another way of putting it maybe is mentor, but your personal mentor. And this sponsor then also expects you to meet with them one-on-one and discuss what things you can relate to in the big book or in the steps, and what things you are struggling with. And then it's also hopefully your first call when you are having thoughts of taking your self-will back and trying it your way instead of the program way.
Yeah. So, and it's highly suggested that you get a home group, a group that you're familiar with, that you go to on a regular basis. And it's also suggested that you get what Justin just outlined, a sponsor, i.e. a mentor and so forth, because there's a lot of families that I would say kind of live on the outskirts and dip their toes into some Al-Anon meetings, then report back that they're not really, feeling comfortable and so forth. And so it is our strong suggestion that you do find a group you're very comfortable with, and also know that there's not one Al-Anon meeting. There's several Al-Anon. I mean, I can't really promise you that there's a certain number, but any city that's how do I get out of this trap? But I would say outside of the extreme rural kind of cities, like even their cities, I would suggest that or think that they have an Al-Anon. But if you're in a somewhat medium-sized city and above, a normal city that shows up on a map of the United States, there's probably several Al-Anon meetings that you can go to. So if you go to a meeting and you absolutely just do not feel comfortable with, or there's something that just bugs you about it, go back on alanon.com or whatever. Probably, I don't know if that's the actual website. Alanon.org, maybe .net, Al-Anon, whatever. But put Al-Anon in your meetings. You can go to another meeting, because you know it, Justin. They'll go to one and then say that's just not for me.
Right. And the good news also, if you are living in a very rural area, one of the few perks of the pandemic is that a lot of both AA and Al-Anon meetings have stayed virtual. So you have a lot more options going that route if you are struggling at something being available near where you live. And, it's interesting when I'm talking to someone newly sober about going to meetings. I used to say that there's no such thing as a bad meeting. Unfortunately, I've been to a few of those now. So there are bad AA and there's bad Al-Anon.
Oh, without question.
All right, yeah.
Yeah.
And so when talking to a sober individual, I will use the example that there are certain bars that have better happy hours. And that's the way an AA person can relate to that problem. Al-Anon or loved ones, can't really relate to that analogy. So I'll point out that there's certain grocery stores that have a better produce selection than others, and you shop around to find the place that best fits what you need. Because there are, right? There are Al-Anon meetings that are predominantly or maybe even solely for people who are there because they are concerned about a spouse. Or there's meetings where, it's a lot of parents that are concerned about a child. And if you are, the opposite, then you're going to feel like, it's not a right fit. And so you can look around for options and find what best suits you.
It is actually al-anon.org is the Al-Anon website. So Al-Anon is ALANON website, al-anon.org. Never been on their website, so I can't even tell you what it looks like. But I'm sure there's all kinds of resources and a list of meetings anywhere in the world, because I think AA does that too. But so we have this verbiage that sometimes trips families up. I mean, they're just overwhelmed. They're drowning in fear, shame, regret, whatever it may be that comes with loving an addict that oftentimes is circling or cycling through addiction, mental health issues, outside of the big terms that often get, thrown out, and we could spend all day enabling codependency. There's all kinds of long words, and I mean, I'm sure families kind of get over it. What are first couple of steps? If a family reaches out to you, what's to expect? What's kind of the foundation you work with? First couple of things, working with any family or trying to give resources to families.
Well, we want to, find out what exactly their loved one is struggling with, and we want to then figure out which is the best program for their loved one. Because and you have to take everything into consideration. Was geography, being close to home good, or would be getting further away, beneficial? How severe is the comorbidity or dual disorders? Is their mental health as primary? I was on a call yesterday, where the individual's loved one, was struggling with an eating disorder as much as the substance use. But when the substance use is under control, so is the eating disorder. But so we want to find the best program for their loved one, but then also start pointing out almost immediately that there is work for them to be done as well. And if if an intervention is needed, it's when they have tried to have a conversation with the individual and it has either been ignored or shot down. Then they can move forward with bringing in a professional, you or I or somebody else, to guide them through trying to have a complete a conversation with that individual, but then point out to them that it's not a success or a failure depending on whether or not their loved one says yes or no. They have succeeded at finding their voice. And where families, I think, have their own struggles, is that they are avoiding having the conversation because they're pretty sure it's going to be a confrontation and it's just going to make things worse. And while it may upset their loved one, it certainly isn't going to make it worse for them. They are going to have their voice heard. And then, this is where working their own program is key. It's sticking to how they are going to grow. And you and I both tell families, I mean, you have to do your own work, because it doesn't matter if Tommy or Susie go away for, 90 days or 3 years. If the family doesn't change, when Tommy and Susie come back, they will go back into the shape that fits that family system. And that is why we strongly encourage and suggest that loved ones and family members go to family programs and get their own reading, assignments and material and education, that they didn't, cause it and they can't cure it. But they can take ownership of moving forward, how they, react.
Well, you said, like, thanks to the pandemic that, you can go to AA and Al-Anon meetings online. Thanks to the pandemic, I think treatment centers have gotten very, very lazy and now have moved majority of their family programming to kind of virtual and so forth. I know I have my beliefs. I've said it. I'm putting more and more blogs because of it. Are you going to ever work with or refer to a facility where the family program is virtual, or i.e. kind of optional?
Sure. If it's the right fit for the identified individual, but thankfully there are other, programs out there that have a standalone family program that I will suggest the family go to.
So what, I mean, when you're talking about a facility that may be the right fit for an individual that has obviously, in my pure opinion, turned their back on the family, which I feel is probably the most pivotal piece to a solution, how do you justify them not necessarily having doing the work on the family side?
I don't know if I have to justify it. You
So
know,
you have programs out there where the family program is not necessarily, I mean, is virtual and optional that you still refer to.
not if I can avoid it, but I mean, I think that we have to take, like I said, I mean, on top of geographical and what the presenting issue is, more and more often, I mean, you have to take into consideration the financial options, uh, and so that's the beauty that you and I have, and so many others. We're not affiliated with any program. It is what is the best fit for that person, and that may be different for the family member. Yeah, I mean, heck, in the care coordinating, case management stuff, I will be working with a whole family and be recommending that they go to, you know, a 7 day or, even longer kind of program for them to continue to work on the underlying issues that they may not be aware of.
I mean, yeah, I agree. And it's just, I mean, in general, and there's not, I mean, you know, you may think that there's ulterior motives. I mean, there very well could be a program out there that I would that we would refer to. I would say that, um, you know, and I will say this in a general statement: places that we've been referring to, or I've been referring to in the past, I was shocked when I took a deeper dive into the family programming within that program, and realized that it is not as extensive as I thought it was. And so, um, it's just been interesting. You know that I've been kind of on this path and kind of more and more dealing directly with families just because that's what we do. But I think it's also time that we can hold treatment facilities and outside resources in general, us, everyone, I'm not excluding us, that we can do a better job with working with the families and we can do a better job of educating. And, it's, I think it's the most important time within, what we're doing is to work with families. Because back in the day, there was kind of, you know, our way or the highway where we can kind of approach families. Now I am seeing the importance of finding positive and finding hope within each family, because I say more often than not we're beating up the addict or alcoholic because of all the things that they're doing wrong, and very rarely are the families, seeing small steps for positive change. And so um, I think a great family program or an involved family program department with each facility has the ability to, not just their therapist that they're working with the individual, so it's all separate, and they have a family, department within the facility. They can start working on communication, um, positive reinforcements, and so forth. Like the list goes on and on. So when that person does come out of treatment, the family will have been doing some work as well. So
Yeah, we're on the same page there, except, I mean, as you were mentioning it, right? I mean, depending on the length of the program, and I think we're both, I am a big proponent of longer long-term care than 30 days. And oftentimes, if that's the program, the family isn't going to come out and do a family program until, maybe month 2 or possibly month 3. And so even the programs that do have family programs, they are, I think if they have like a weekly call, which most or all of the programs that we work with, have, which is sort of its own version of an Al-Anon meeting. And it's not the same as a family program. But it also falls on us and our colleagues to be having those conversations with families as soon as we have gotten the loved one into a program that they needed. The job I did, at the end of last week, I have checked in with the sister, multiple times already. And we only, had the conversation with her brother last Friday. Because some of this, they don't know what they don't know. And they think, okay, he said yes, we're good to go. And you have to point out to them that a newly sober person will give their self-will over and take it back about as often as they are breathing. And that the detox phase, it may possibly feel at the time the most difficult thing that they're going through, and want to, take back their willingness. And then they'll find out, oh, you know what? Working on the emotional detox is even harder than the physical detox. I don't want to do this. And so we have to educate the family there is a difference really between, consequences and boundaries. And so while some of it falls on them getting to be immersed and focused on it in a 3 or 4 day family program or a weekly hour family call with where their loved one is at, some of it is also on us as soon as possible to say that this is the beginning of the journey, not the end.
Well, I mean, we're going to continue to argue and kind of disagree and maybe agree, and maybe we'll all agree on the same principles. But I will say that I probably have joined 6, 7, 8 of these so-called weekly calls. It's just kind of I got the option, I got the ability to invited to kind of, listen in and just kind of be a frog on the log or whatever you want to call it. I would tell, and if, treatment centers, call me the next day and ask me how it went. I'm going to be honest with them. And I will say it's very, very rare that there's any real education going on in those calls. It's more about, is Johnny sleeping, which are all legitimate, but if this facility is utilizing, like you're saying, the weekly calls, I think it's imperative, I think that's the right frame, that the family are getting the education and not just complain fest or, questions and answers and, how is Johnny doing? Did Johnny take the vitamin? Did, Billy get the package that I sent? It's great to build that family community. I think if you're doing the weekly calls, there better be heavy education, and also someone on from the facility that can kind of steer the conversation, because if you do it long enough, it's going to go off track, and you need someone there to bring it, keep it on track. Otherwise, you're going to end up with, analyzing sleep habits and whether Snickers are healthy or not.
Oh yeah. But what you also just described, Right? I mean, bad meetings that I've been to in the 20 some years since leaving treatment, you can come across one from time to time where all it is a whining session and talking about, you know, the problems and not, you know, the solutions.
Yeah. And I would say majority of the weekly calls are less about education at this point. I'm
Right.
confident enough to say that.
Then that's an area that we all need to work on. And our job is to, family by family, educate them about that, so that when they are on that call, they're aware that, you know, there's a different way it could be done.
Well, our families get all the help. I mean, I just feel bad for the others that are just kind of left on their own. So, everyone needs to do a better job of including the families, educating the families, empowering the families, not just beating down the families with a bunch of, industry jargon. Simplify it, find the, personalized hope, personalized help, personalized, communication with each family to see where they're at and what they're, are they just checking the boxes? Do they really understand what they're trying to say? If you're going to have weekly calls, have someone that's, educated enough that can educate and also keep on track the family. So the pandemic has done a lot. I'm of the mindset that the pandemic has nearly destroyed majority of the family programs, and the good treatment centers, I think, are realizing this. And there's some really, really good programs with really, really good family support, and those are the places I want to admire and kind of promote and definitely work with.
I agree.
But we talked about a lot of the topics there. Kind of majority. We tried to go simple, and then I went on my rant. So anyway, it happens every week. So
tune in next week.
I'm not even upset with myself anymore. Like,
there you go.
Sometimes, the old Jay, I would have got a little talking to. I would just talk to myself like, dang it, Jay, why do you have to like put down a soapbox, even though I don't really even know what a soapbox looks like. But supposedly I stand on one very frequently, but I don't even have my conversations anymore. I embrace it, and you just never know when a soapbox opportunity is going to present itself to me.
Well,
but yeah. I will take it.
Yeah,
I will take it. So
it was a topic from the heart for you and for me, so that's what's important.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of like an AA meeting. I mean, it only takes 2 alcoholics.
This is true.
So, maybe I, went on a little drunk-a-log and got away from the solution a little bit, but it helped. It helped.
Yeah. There's a little bit of whining going on, but if you got it out,
it helped. It is what it is. But anyway, this has been fun.
And I hope it was helpful for folks.